everyone. Welcome to the Transformation series. I'm Rachel Bryant. I'm here with my co-host Shirley Strong, and today we are welcoming Dr. Jeanine Canty, one of our esteemed faculty members, to talk about cultivating ecological resilience and more. Jeanine, introduce yourself.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yes, I
It's
think yes. How would you introduce yourself? I could read your bio, but
yeah.
I'd love to hear how you're doing
Yeah,
today.
I'm a professor in the transformative studies PhD program in the transforming inquiry department. And I see lots of my people in the room, which is lovely. I mean, you're all my people. And I live in Boulder, Colorado. And I would say my one of my biggest passions, I'm an ecopsychologist, and most of my work revolves around both ecological and social justice. And I'm a meditation instructor as well, an author, writer, professor, and I'd say pretty quirky, weird person. Yeah. Lover of nature and justice.
I know you recently published a book, and maybe we'll start with that question. Tell us about your latest book.
Yeah, well, my latest book is it's called I'll show the Ecological and Social Healing, Multicultural Women's Voices. And this is actually I'm the editor and a contributor, and it's the second edition of this book. The first edition came out around 2016, 2017, and it's a compilation of mostly BIPOC women and femmes, including and also a couple Anglo women, and really looking at how our work as scholars, but practitioners on the edges between social and ecological issues through our careers and life stories. What are the emergent properties that come out of it? And then yeah, and it's I think there's 18 of us that contribute. And then I've got two other books. I mean, well, four in total if you count the first edition of this book. But then I've got another edited collection called it's about globalism and localization, emergent approaches to ecological and social issues. And then probably my most popular book is called Returning the Self to Nature, Undoing Our Collective Narcissism and Healing Our Planet. And that one, and I try to do this actually with all of the things I write these days, more so is really trying to make it accessible. Because often, especially in PhD programs, which I teach in one, in that doctoral level, often people are writing in such a way that no one else understands them. And so,
Mhm.
like, how do we really do writing and speaking scholarship that actually makes impacts on the larger world rather than just academic communities?
So important to have actionable scholarship, right? Something
Mhm.
that is moving us collectively with the earth toward our highest potential. It seems gloom at times. And yeah, I don't, Shirley, do you want to ask a question or I'll keep going?
Well, I wanted to just mention that Shandara Gill, is that how you pronounce your name? Says that she's reading one of your books in the transformative studies intro class. So I think your books are being, and there's
Oh,
a lot of love, a lot of hearts coming up. Um,
oh.
the point about how do we make it real for folks on a daily basis is the challenge, I think. Can you talk more about how we break it down in a way so people can actually engage in some of these ecological practices that
Mhm.
make the world healthier?
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, I know the theme of our session is about cultivating ecological resilience. And um, one of the things that frameworks I work with is deep ecology, which is really looking at how a lot of the environmental movement and just environmental policies in general are um, attending to things in shallow ways, not shallow and bad, but it's just like a policy or technology, but not necessarily getting into worldview and how we really change the full paradigm. And so I also work a lot with the frameworks of Joanna Macy, and she and others, including David Corton, talk about the Great Turning. And this is really how we shift to an ecologically resilient society. And there's three dimensions in that. And one is more of that the technology, the policies, all of the things that we can do to reduce our ecological impact, both on a personal and a collective level, which are immense and so important that we're looking at our lifestyles, where we choose to work, how we choose to use or not use fossil fuels, just to look at all of those things. But then one of the dimensions of the Great Turning are holding actions in defense of the earth. So how do we actually protect places, and including peoples that we love, and really looking at what do we say no to, that I'm not going to participate in this industry or this practice because I want to support rather than extract from these places. And then the third area is shifting to paradigms. And I feel like this, particularly my work and particularly my work at CIIS, is about that, is how do we work with people's worldviews to shift to be more ecologically and socially just resilience. And I know there's some transformative studies folks in the call that know this, but really for working around transformative learning, we just work past someone's edge of efficacy, like where their comfort zone is. So if we start like going out way out there, people shut down. But if we actually meet people where they're at, and this is both with ecological and social issues, that's where people might say, oh, I can lean in, listen more, connect my story to that, and actually open to that. And we're at a time, both in US society, but I would say globally, where so many people feel shut down from entering into more resilience or curiosity because they can feel really scared about being overloaded with statistics or being shoulded that you need to
Mhm.
do this and do that, don't do this, don't do that. But rather than having an invitation like, let's talk about this, let's bring some models, let's get your story. So I get pretty nerdy about that process, and not just in the head, but also through more somatic activities, community engaging, storytelling. There's so many forms with that.
Mhm. Mhm.
I just want to remind people, put your questions in the chat. We'd love to hear from all of you as well.
Yes, your students should have some good questions for you coming soon, and maybe I'll unpin us so that we can see everyone who's here now as
Yes.
well. So we're coming back into the full view now.
But
And is there one there?
uh,
Oh,
yeah, here we go.
okay.
This is from Corey Franco. With the rise of AI, how do you see our ability to dream inspire us enough to practice in economical practices, self, mind, spirit? How can we engage in actionable scholarship from your perspective? What
Yeah. Hey, Corey, and that's a great question. Um, I often folks, especially as faculty at CIS, but at any institution, that's like such a big topic right now, how AI is, invading everything, and how do we, what are our policies, and, all of that. And I often say I'm not so much into AI, I'm into you and I, because I'm more of a like um, um, community and nature, but I think it is really important for particularly that transpersonal question. And I know some of our TSD students are engaging this in their inquiries to like AI is not going away. So we actually need to train it so it has some knowledge around transpersonal, also around social issues, also around ecological. And someone turned me on to you could Google him, and he's a debated kind of I guess public intellectual, but Greg Braden, and I like his kind of central theme is that AI is not necessarily bad, but as human beings, we have barely scratched the surface of tapping into our transpersonal capacities. And if we actually don't do that work and just jump into a fully AI world, we'll lose those capacities. And so for me, our work at CIIS, where we're centered around spirituality and so many of these transpersonal realities and real-time community and ecological issues, it's so important to stay in those awarenesses and to really work with them rather than just jumping into an AI world. So I'm not
Yeah.
a Luddite, but yeah,
You know, some would say we maybe have already lost some of our sensitivity and powers, you know, because of modernization and technology. And I agree with you, AI is here to stay. Um, I know that you are a dreamer, and that's one of the things, that's one of those extra perception informative experiences that all humans have the capacity for. So, if you could tell us how you use your dreams and how they play into your scholarship and your activism and just your well-being, and then we will go to HP for a question. I see
great.
your hand.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I've always been a big dreamer, and dreaming was encouraged in my household where, my dad, and I feel like even my grandfather, it'd be a normal thing to be like, what were what dreams did you have last night? And they would model that. And so I, yeah, nerd out in the dream world. I could also be a professional sleeper. I really love sleeping. Um, and I notice I read long time ago, read the book The Fifth Sacred Thing. And in the it's not a spoiler alert, but there's a sub theme in that book. And it's by Starhawk, where there's a council of elder women who dream for the city. And as I getting older, I'm like, that's what I want to be as an elder. I want to dream for my community. And so I have been more intentional with that and studying and obviously practicing. But there's also, when we talk about all of these larger issues, when we can start in training to dream with not just our own selves, but actually with nature and the transpersonal, the dream world's a way where language barriers dissolve and we can understand and have communications with the more than human world, both symbolically, maybe also hear something, who appears. And so a lot of my edge is when I'm having dreams and suddenly maybe a huge elephant walks in the room and I'm just so amazed about the elephant. Now my work is more like, how about you listen to what elephant is here to say? And yeah, so yeah, dreams are massive for me.
Mhm, mhm. Thank
And
you.
collective dreaming is another thing too, which is part of that. Yeah.
We're going to extend this after we end the formal part of this recording in this session to answer your questions like this. But in a nutshell, can people who aren't in your program take some of your eco-psych classes. This person wants to
Yeah.
study with you and wants to know if you teach across programs or if maybe they're electives.
Yeah, so it's two of the classes that I teach in the Transformative Studies PhD program are electives that I've designed that are open to all students at CIS. One is the class that I spoke of that's called Finding the Extraordinary and the Ordinary for the Love of All Sentient Beings. And that one brings together ecopsychology, contemplative practice and depth psychology, and some other things as well. And then the other elective is about, it's called Ecological and Social Healing, Mindful Awareness and Social Transformation. And that brings together both ecological justice, eco-psychology, and social healing. And yeah, um, often if you have electives, most of our programs have space for elective as part of your degree. And as long as there's openings in the course, you can take them. And you can also work with your chair of your program to make sure it will count towards your certificate. Yeah.
Mm, thank you. And we can talk about that some more. Here's the last question, and I think we'll be out of time. And I love this question Marie Hughley asked. Any interesting artists that you recommend that work with topics of psychology?
Oh, yeah,
That's a
that's such a,
great question. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know firsthand. I know the artist that did the cover of the this book, and also the she did the cover for my first book too, which is from the same series, is her name's Raina Gentry, and all of her work is kind of ecological, mindful, and I could literally live in one of her paintings. Um, and at CIS we have expressive arts programs, both at the MA and the PhD level, and a number of the students bring in some eco psychology or at least environmental themes into their work with that. But that's a really interesting
A good
question. That would be a
question.
cool, even just to have um, a showcase at CIS and the display of people that are doing eco psych and
Absolutely.
art.
Thank you, Shirley, so much for always being here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rachel.